Welcome back from that break. You're still watching Africa's finest breakfast show, Newday on People's Television. You find us on channel 120 on the Star Times decoder and in 52 countries where we're loved and preferred under the Nikon Sat. USAT 1R is where you find us also. It's now time for the second discuss, which has to do with how to earn buying and selling of votes in Nigerian elections. In the 2017 Anambra state government election, we had the buying and selling of vote by the two major parties of APC and the PDP. And we're looking at how to end it before the 2019 general elections. And no better person but the executive director of the Center for Leadership, Strategy and Development in the person of Dr. Otive Buzo, and also the former country director of Action Aid Nigeria. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, it's my pleasure.
Thank you.
All right. Your expertise in leadership, strategy, and development is not questionable, and we've known you worked with international organizations. And in 2017, you went for the Global Asset Recovery Conference. Putting all this expertise in place, how best do you think Nigeria can tackle buying and selling of votes in order for us to get credible leadership?
Thank you very much. I think when you want to solve any problem, you look for the cause of the problem. Why and how is it that it is possible for people to buy votes? People buy votes principally because majority of the people have been impoverished. So it's a deliberate strategy by politicians. They impoverish the citizens, and during elections, they bring out pittance. And people are able to accept the money and vote because of lack of awareness and consciousness. Because I always say there is a trajectory.
Okay.
From being ignorant to becoming aware. When you become aware, you know that, for instance, you know that buying of vote is bad. And buying of vote will affect your future. And buying of vote will lead to wrong decisions. Then you move from the level of awareness to consciousness. Consciousness is when you take a conscious decision that you will do something, or you can do something about it. And then the third level is the level of organizing. So it's only through awareness, consciousness raising, and organizing that buying of votes can be stopped. Because, you know, one of the problems we have in this country is that we appeal to people. For instance, the media, religious leaders, even scholars, they will appeal to politicians not to buy votes. It doesn't work. Those appeals are useless. Because if two of us are politicians and you make the appeal and I accept the appeal and the other person doesn't accept, you have lost. So those appeals do not work. What works is to put in place a mechanism to prevent people from doing wrong. For instance, one of the ways I said is to increase awareness, consciousness, and mobilizing.
Yeah.
The second way is for the security agencies to be able to implement the laws, because buying of vote is illegal. It's a criminal offense. So if people are prosecuted, it will serve as a deterrent to others. Then the third way which you can deal with it is through the political parties. You know, especially now we have, I think, about 68
political parties.
Yes. Assuming that even 20% of them are effective, that means you have more than 10 political parties. If you have more than 10 political parties active in every community in Nigeria, and during the elections, you have 10 what do you call it? Agents, party agents.
Party agents, okay.
Because the buying of the vote, you know, Nigeria is one country where impunity reigns supreme. In other climes, if you want to buy vote, maybe you hide. But now people are recording them; they don't care.
So
you know.
Okay.
So you see somebody. In fact, in the last election, like the Anambra election, you mentioned, you see it on social media with the political chieftain with pot belly, sit down in one place with table, and then with the money, people come collect and will just be giving them. So if there are other strong political parties, they can mobilize.
Okay.
And if they, you know, there are a lot of ifs. If the security agencies do their work, then, you know, they mobilize, say, look at that man, he's buying votes, which is illegal, and he's arrested. So when you do that, and I think that's another point we must also take note of. Many problems you see in this world are multifactorial.
Okay.
That is, there are many things that cause them.
Okay.
And so, when we are dealing with them, we must deal with them from different dimensions. Okay. So, buying of votes, citizens have a role to play. The media has a role to play. Security agents has a role to play. INEC has a role to play. If all of these ones play their role, then we can see decrease in buying of votes. But to stop it completely is almost a tawdry.
You talked about those three stages. In terms of consciousness, can you safely say Nigerians are conscious of the ills of buying and selling of votes?
No.
And secondly, in terms of organization, what role have civil society played? Have they played enough role, or they only seem to play roles when it seems they're trying to protect a particular interest or policy? Would you say they've done enough, or what would be your suggestion?
Well, first is that, you know, when we talk about civil society in Nigeria, many people have a misconception about it. Civil society is different from NGOs.
Okay.
And
technically, what are the difference between these two groups of people?
Civil society, in fact, you can look at it this way, to put it in a very crude and simple manner.
Okay.
That society is divided into three sectors.
Okay.
You have government, so everybody in government officials, they constitute government.
Okay.
Then you have the private sector, those who are doing business to make profit.
Okay.
And any other organization outside these two constitute civil society.
Okay.
Both the citizens and citizens groups.
Okay.
You know. So among that, there are NGOs who are professional bodies that are set up specifically to pursue some goals. For instance, SNTLSD to leadership, issues of strategy and development approaches. You know, so that is that. So the point is really that civil society, they've done a lot in terms of ensuring awareness, consciousness, and organizing. But if you look at the country as a whole, you will see that the level of awareness is very high.
Okay.
And this has been aided by, you know, television stations, discussions like these, social media, and so on. If you discuss with many Nigerians, even on the street, if you go to where they are selling newspapers and you engage in discussions, the discussions mimic what professors of political economy, the issues they raise. So the lived experience of Nigerians have turned them into experts on the challenges facing the country. Okay. So Nigerians know when they suspect that people have stolen money. You know? Nigerians know when a policy is brought that is favorable to the rich and harmful to the poor. But unfortunately, we've not moved to the next level,
which is
consciousness.
And what is stopping that movement?
You know, there are, first, it takes time to move from awareness to consciousness. Secondly, it takes deliberate efforts and organizations. Unfortunately for us in the country, many organizations are not enduring. You know, so it takes time, ideological training, you know, consistency. Then people will now begin, because if you reach the level of consciousness, that is the level that you now know that yes, I can do something.
Okay.
So what you see today is that whether in civil society, whether in the media, whether it's the public sector, many people just feel that, for Nigeria, what can you do? That even anything I do will not change anything. They know, they are aware. The level of awareness is there. But level of consciousness that, you know, if our founding fathers all behaved the way many of us are behaving today, we would not have had a type of society. But the luck is that there are a few people who have reached the level of consciousness, like people like us, because we know that there are things we can do and we are doing it consistently. The only challenge is that we don't have that critical mass of conscious people.
Because that's the question I wanted to pose to you. I know that Center LSD have done a lot. They've produced awesome number of leaders, which I've come across with. So what is stopping this crop of leaders you've produced over time in terms of leadership? What's stopping them from breaking forth in their different spheres
in St.
of life?
LSD, we started the leadership school in 2009.
Okay.
We've produced 531 leaders graduated from the leadership school. Our population is 180 million.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. We have people in every sector, whether in the media. Okay. There are people in the media who don't collect bribe. There are people in the NGO sector who don't do creative accounting. They don't forge receipts. You know, there are people in government who don't steal. Let me shock you. There are policemen who don't collect bribes. But there are too few.
For the number of
there are too few
Yeah.
to be able to have major impact across the country. And, you know, it's a thing I've reflected on. There are also people who start out this way, but they crash for economic reasons.
Okay.
You can imagine that, you know, you say, okay, you are a policeman, you won't take bribe, you won't, then the salary, as I speak to you, the salary of a recruit is about 24,000 naira. And then you are posted to Abuja. You work in Asokoro. The only place you can get house is One Man Village or Nyanya. Your transport, to and fro,
Swallows the wages.
for 22 working days
Or more in case they're not paid on time.
or more will be more than 24,000. So tell me, how do you survive?
But sir, let me just jump in. You said something that you've graduated over 500 leaders and all that. But then how about, you know, you said a lot of ifs in this discussion. So what if a little drop in the ocean can make the difference? How about they start at that one first? Because if we sit outside looking and say that, oh no, the number of transparent leaders or people that want to get into leadership and are willing to like go in with consciousness were very few. They'll just sit back and then nothing happens. You know, so how about when they go in there, just start the change little by little.
You know, my
little by
sister,
little.
that is why we still have a country.
Okay.
Because there are still people in police who will not connive with armed robbers. Do you understand? There are still people in the public sector who will say, look, the purpose of the public sector is provision of services. There are still people in the media who say, look, we must balance our stories. It's not just that one politician come and give us money. So that's why we still have society.
Okay.
So what we have with all of these leaders we have trained, they are making waves in their individual organization. They are lighting candles in their own corners. And that is the point. That's the reason why we are doing it. We are and you know, many of them, like one of the people we have trained, I said we have trained 500 and something people. There's one of the people, one of the graduate, one of the persons that graduated from our school, Osawaru in Benin, has trained over 2,000 people. So there will be multiplier effect. Our hope is that as we go along, a time will come where we will have a required critical mass of people, and then we'll be able to change the trajectory.
All right, finally, as we wrap up, what would be your technical advice from your wealth of experience, both on the international level, especially with what you drew from that conference of global asset recovery, and what faces us in 2019? What would be your technical advice to the Nigerian populace?
Well, I think the advice is to government,
Okay.
to anti-corruption agencies,
Okay.
to the implementation of the open government partnership,
Okay.
which the federal government are assigned to, and then to citizens. First is that there's still a lot of resources that have been looted by past leaders.
Okay.
In fact, at the Global Forum, we discovered that one Nigerian politician bought some property in South Africa during the 2010 World Cup.
Okay.
He went there to the front of the stadium and bought everything in the front of the stadium,
Wow.
which the South African government seized as proceeds of corruption. They wanted to hand it over to the government at that time, but the government was not interested. So they handed it over to a lawyer in the United Kingdom to hold in trust. So government should know that there are still a lot of property and money stolen. Remember at the conference, they returned 321 million dollars,
Yeah.
which is part of Abacha loot.
Okay.
You know, we are not talking of those that were looted during Obasanjo era, during Yaradua era, during Jonathan era. We are still returning
The 90s.
Abacha. So there is a lot. That's one thing that government must know.
Okay.
There's still a lot of money stolen, which can be recovered.
Okay.
For the anti-corruption agencies, you know, they need to implement the national strategy for corruption
Okay.
and know that fighting against corruption goes beyond arresting people and prosecuting them. They need to do preventive. They need to put mechanism in place to prevent corruptible transactions. In fact, that is more lasting. You make corruption difficult, if not impossible. And then for the citizens, vigilance is the eternal price of liberty. Everywhere in the world, there are mechanisms for controlling corruption. And these mechanisms reside within the executive itself. You put internal mechanisms and procedures. That's why you have financial circulars and all of those things. You put internal mechanisms to make people not steal. The legislature must do their oversight. The media, especially the media in Nigeria. You know, at times the media in Nigeria, you know, need to take more seriously is constitutional responsibility, because the media is the only constitutional body that has been charged with the responsibility of holding government to account. And then citizens should know that it's not a question of appeal. They need to move from the level of awareness to consciousness. It's their own interest, so that they can intervene more decisively in the electoral process. If you don't elect good political leaders, you can never have development. The development of any country is tied to the quality of leaders that they produce. And the quality of leaders is dependent on the quality of the electorate. And that is why people say that those people who vote corrupt politicians are not victims, they are accomplices.
All right, well said. And this one of the strongest reasons why we had to ensure that Dr. T. Guzo was live here, to give us this very resounding knowledge and insight as regards how best Nigerians can elect the right leaders and try to reduce the buying and selling of votes. And we just wanted to put you on the spot, hoping that you promise us where we're going to have you to give us full details as regards the Global Asset Recovery Conference you attended and lessons we should learn from it.
Yeah, we can schedule it.
Okay. All right, so that's a promise from one of Nigeria's finest leadership training outfits, talking about Center for Leadership, Strategy and Development. And like Dr. TV has said, they have produced over 500 plus leaders who have in turn, like in Edo State, gone ahead to train the trainers by training as much as 2,000 Nigerians. So we're hoping that this, once it continues, come 2023 or more, we're going to be having more leaders and a better society. I want to say thank you very much for joining us on the show. All right, we'll be going for another quick break. When we come back, we'll be taking our last guest. And as we look at choosing the right leaders, what are the key indices we should look out for? That will be after this break.